In 1986, a small group at Lucasfilm under the name Pixar created two computer-animated short films, those shorts being The Adventures of Andre and Wally B, and the other one that set the foundation and their mascot, Luxo Jr. These were created to show their potential in the field and what they wanted to see in the future of animation. The founder of Lucasfilm, George Lucas, let Pixar go off to do their own thing. This was involving short films, selling software to companies, and doing TV ads. This was all underneath the foundation of the three founders of Pixar, Ed Catmull, investor Steve Jobs, and John Lasseter. They would later go on to partner with Disney to create the first ever computer-animated motion picture. The rest is history. On this day, 30 years ago, Toy Story was released to a critical acclaim and became the highest-grossing film of 1995. It's insane to think that Toy Story has now reached 30 years since its original release on November 22nd, Thanksgiving Day of 1995. While I am from the UK and the film didn't release until March 22nd of 1996, close to the Easter holidays at the time, most of the people I know from the UK don't care about that technicality and just celebrates the anniversary along with the US. Either way, it's insane to think about. As a kid, I would watch Toy Story all the time. I owned two VHS copies of the movie at the time. One was the standard release, and the other was a 1999 collector's edition which came with a behind-the-scenes documentary of the making of the film. I think we donated them, or they just got thrown out when we got rid of our VCR player. But I did years later buy them again on eBay, including the widescreen edition. Of course I have a DVD and Blu-ray copy of the movie. Originally I had a 10th anniversary DVD, but the disc broke, probably from watching the movie so many times. So I ended up getting the very original DVD release. The coolest physical release I have of the film though, has got to be my Laserdisc copy, sealed and everything. I got that on eBay for really cheap. You'd think with how rare it was, it would be way more expensive. But no, absolute steal. Of course I have Disney Plus thanks to my sister and I can watch the film on there. I got to watch the film in the cinema during two different Disney 100 marathons, altogether that put me at 4 viewings of the film in the cinema. I was meant to see the film in 3D back in 2009, but at the time I hadn't been in a cinema and was scared to go. But look at me now, not only do I go to the cinema pretty much multiple times a week, I work in one. In February of 2022, I went to the Apollo Theatre in London to see Toy Story in concert, where I got to watch the movie with a live orchestra, which I will say is one of the coolest ways I've ever watched a film. Toy Story is a special film for me. I would watch it and the second film as many times as I could. I would play the DVD I owned as a kid on a loop, I would recite quotes from it, and act out scenes with my toys. My original bedroom was themed around Buzz Lightyear as he was my favorite character ever. Yes, despite my channel being mostly focused on Sonic, Buzz Lightyear is my preferred character of the two. Here's a picture of me from 2010 with all the Buzz Lightyear toys I had as a kid. Poor Woody got put to the side on a step stool. Cheer up, cowboy. I love you as well. As you can imagine, Toy Story had made such an impact on my life as a kid, and something I still hold very personally to this very day. I once did a review on this movie back in 2018, but looking back at it, it does not hold up very well and not one of my best work. So I thought, because of the 30th anniversary, why don't I redo that review? And if I enjoy doing this, I may consider doing it for other reviews I've done in the past, and even ones I haven't done since 2018, 2019 and all that. So, after 30 years, how does it hold up? Let's find out. This is my review on Toy Story. For this review, I will be using the 35mm scan of the film, which for those that don't know, 35mm is a film roll which was used back in the day to make movies. It was how it was printed onto and can be played in cinema screens. It was how anything was projected for a very long time until the early 2000s when digital projectors came to the scene, which is the standard of today's screenings in cinemas. Another reason I'm using this version of the film is because it has the original Walt Disney logo Pixar made back then, rather than what the modern releases of the film use, one of the later Disney logos, and lastly, the 35mm version of the film has the original lighting that the film had before the DVD release that changed it. So the 35mm is the definitive way to watch the film. If you're able to track it down, I recommend it, and it will be the way I watch Toy Story going forward. Full disclaimer, I will be going into the entire plot of the film, which means I will be talking about spoilers, which is kind of a weird thing to say for a movie that's been out for 30 years, which also had 3 sequels, 1 that's coming on the way, we got 3 spin-offs, 2 TV specials, and 4 dedicated short films. So saying spoilers for something like that is a bit redundant, but there are people out there who probably do care, so this is your warning, I guess, if you haven't seen the movie in a long time or ever. Again, this is your warning. The film begins with a boy named Andy playing with his toys. His favorite toy of the lot is a cowboy doll named Woody Pride, voiced by Tom Hanks. Other toys we get to meet is Mr. Potato Head, voiced by the late Don Rickles, Bo Peep, voiced by Annie Potts, Slinky Dog, voiced by the late Jim Varney, Ham the Piggy Bank, voiced by John Ratzenberger, and Rex the Dinosaur, voiced by Wallace Shawn. After playtime, Andy's mom has him getting ready for his early birthday party, which came as a shock to Woody, so he has to think how to break the news to the other toys, and decides to put on a staff meeting. The rest of the toys are immediately scared of what the outcome of the party will be, and when it comes to what presents Andy receives. So Woody sends the Green Army Men, led by Sarge, voiced by the late Arlie Armory. Sarge reports back via baby monitors of each present Andy gets. Thankfully, none of it was a brand new toy, which puts all the toys at ease. Woody stayed calm throughout the whole thing because he knew it was all going to be fine. Until it wasn't. Andy's mum pulls out a surprise gift, but due to the kids' excitement, Sarge couldn't get a good look at first, and when the kids were jumping around, it blocked the signal for Sarge to communicate, and Rex knocks down the monitor. By the time the monitor was put back together, Sarge is ordering for all the toys to go back to their places before Andy and the other kids crash in. After the boys run out of the room, all the toys are wondering what it was that had all the boys excited. Woody, being the leader of course, is the one to go check, and it's not what he was expecting. A brand new high-tech action figure, Buzz Lightyear, voiced by Tim Allen. During the whole introduction to Buzz, Woody is trying to establish his position in the room and among other toys, but everyone is just focused on Buzz, and throughout the whole thing, Buzz thinks he's actually a real space ranger and not a toy. Even when Woody tries to debunk that to him, everything was going in Buzz's favor, leading into a bit of jealousy from Woody. During the course of Buzz's stay, everything begins to change around Woody. Posters and the bedding were changed to be themed around Buzz, all the other toys would rather spend time with Buzz, and Andy was playing with Buzz more than he was with Woody. All of this builds up even more jealousy. Meanwhile, Buzz is introduced to the boy next door, Sid, who loves to torture and destroy toys. Thankfully they were moving very soon, so it wouldn't be much longer around Sid. Later that night, Andy's mum decides they go have dinner at Pizza Planet. She tells Andy he can only bring 1 toy, so Woody comes up with a plan to get Buzz out of the picture. However, plans don't go exactly how Woody intended. Buzz is knocked out of the window and all the toys think Woody did that intentionally. Before they could do anything about it, Andy comes back in and ends up taking Woody to Pizza Planet as Buzz is nowhere to be seen. They stop at a petrol station and Buzz makes a surprise entry to Woody. The two fight under the car and accidentally get left behind. Thankfully, a Pizza Planet truck turns up, so they get inside and wait until they arrive at Pizza Planet. Buzz and Woody sneak inside and Buzz is just blown away as he thinks it's a space station rather than a restaurant/arcade. Woody focuses on getting back to Andy, but Buzz gets sidetracked as he finds a claw machine that looks like a rocket ship he thinks he can use to get back to Star Command. Woody chases after him and they meet the green aliens who await to be chosen by whomever controls the Claw. The next person to control it is none other than Sid from next door. He spots Buzz and Woody tries to have them escape, but ends up failing due to the aliens. They end up in Sid's room where they first encounter toys previously destroyed and reassembled by him, like Frankenstein. The rest of Andy's toys catch wind that Woody is also missing and some feel relieved after what happened with Buzz. Woody and Buzz try to wait it out when it looks like they are free to escape. However, Sid's dog Scud is present, so they split up and try to hide from Scud. Doing so, Buzz ends up in a room where he sees an ad for a Buzz Lightyear toy, and everything begins to click that he is in fact a toy and not a real space ranger. Buzz has one more attempt to see if that's true by trying to fly out of a window, which results in him breaking his arm off. Sid's sister Hannah finds Buzz and decides to take him to her room and have a tea party, and given the name Mrs. Nesbit. When Woody gets Hannah out of the room, he finds Buzz in such a state that Buzz is very depressed that he's not a space ranger. It results in Woody having an idea to use Christmas lights he had on him to use as a way to get back to Andy's room. However, the toys still believe that Woody was out to murder Buzz, and after a failed attempt to tell them otherwise, they lose the lights and Woody is back to square one. It turns out the reassembled toys in Sid's room aren't that bad after all, as they fix Buzz's arm and even revealed that they fixed back up one of Hannah's dolls and a Pteranto toy back to their original bodies. Sid comes back into the room with a package, an explosive rocket which he intended to use on Woody to blow up. Instead, he uses it on Buzz. Unfortunately for Sid, it was raining outside, so he has to wait until morning. Woody and Buzz have a talk while Sid's asleep, and it gets Buzz out of his state of depression. They try to get Woody out of the box, but doing so, Sid was awoken and heads downstairs with Buzz to begin his plan, as it's now daytime and of course, sunny. Woody teams up with the rest of Sid's toys to save Buzz and for them to get out and make it to Andy in time as it was moving day. The plan becomes a success in scaring Sid off and saving Buzz from being blown up. They rush off to catch up with Andy, all the while they are being chased by Scud. Woody makes it onto the moving truck, grabs RC, and tries to rescue Buzz, although the rest of the toys think Woody was back for more. By the time they threw Woody off the truck, they realized they messed up when they saw Woody and Buzz riding RC. They try to grab them back onto the truck with Slinky, but RC's batteries ran out and it was too much for Slinky to bear. Thankfully, Buzz still had the rocket taped to his back and Woody still had a match that he got from Sid, although the match went out from a car going by. They were able to light the rocket in the end thanks to the reflective light on Buzz's helmet, and they were sent flying. Launching RC back into the truck, they ditch the rocket in the sky to blow up, and they make their way back to Andy. Rather than flying, they're falling. With style. The film ends on Christmas Day. Sarge and the other Green Army men have prepared to inform the other toys in Andy's new room of what he, his mum, and his little sister Molly get for the holidays. One of the things being for Molly is a Mrs. Potato Head. Last thing we see is Woody and Buzz next to each other on the bed, waiting for Sarge to report the next thing. The last thing we hear is Andy and the sound of a dog barking. And that's the story. Toy Story. Be in the corner. Pixar knocked it right out of the park with their first feature film. The story on how it was made is something so inspirational. The film was originally meant to be darker, more mean-spirited, but after test screenings for Disney executives, that's when they knew they needed to rework the film into what we know today. Disney almost forced the entire film to be cancelled right there with the test screening, dubbed as the Black Friday reel. You can see snippets of that version of the film in some bonus feature releases of the movie, or if you look it up online. You won't find the full reel, but at least you get an idea of what it would have been like. As for thoughts on the story and characters, what can I say about this film that hasn't already been said time and time again from critics and audiences? The film is a classic. You feel so engaged in the world they created. The characters are funny, while some of the mean-spirited side of things is still present in, say, Mr. Potato Head as the best example. It's nowhere near to the same extent as the Black Friday reel was. Plus, with who Mr. Potato Head is, you get a good laugh at his jokes. We don't get to spend too much time with Andy or his mum in the movie, same with Sid, but that's not necessarily a bad thing since the movie is called Toy Story. You'd want to focus on the toys rather than the humans that own them. That's something a live-action movie would do. Part of the reason the toys got more focus was because at the time 3D models had a plastic look to them, which was the case in several Pixar shorts before this movie was made, the best examples being the clown from Red's Dream and the baby in Tin Toy, which was one of the projects that helped inspire Toy Story. If you look at all the humans in the film, characters like Andy, his mum, Sid, Hannah, and to the extent Andy's little sister Molly, they look fine at times. It is of course very outdated by today's standards, not to mention all the boys and the other kids we see in the background at Andy's birthday party and at Pizza Planet are just reskins of Andy and Hannah. All of why I think it was the right move to make the movie about toys rather than humans first. Same goes with their next movie, A Bug's Life, which focused on like bugs and all that, rather than any humans in that movie. If we look at the toys for a moment, Obviously, they are the best looking characters in the movie. At times they look more like toys here than they did in the later sequels of Toy Story. I loved Woody's arc throughout the film, going from top dog, to jealousy getting the better of him, to overcoming it and becoming good friends with Buzz and share the position of top dog instead of fighting over it. One of the deleted scenes in the movie involved an extended take on when Woody was trapped underneath the crate to try and talk to Buzz while Sid was asleep. Lee Unkrich, who was an editor on the film, says they regret taking that out as they felt it would have added more depth to the film, including another scene where we see Sid torturing Buzz with a drill and an alternate perspective of Sid interrogating Woody right before the magnifying glass bit. Looking back at both scenes, yeah, it would have been nice to have them, but I think the film is still just fine as it is without them. And of course, as I mentioned earlier in the review, Buzz is my favorite character in the film. I love just how serious he takes the role of being a space ranger very seriously. It's just peak comedy from Pixar. And at times, Buzz is also pretty inspirational for when he does that stuff, because this is something I say to some of my colleagues at work. I take working at a cinema pretty seriously. The way I take it seriously is how Buzz would take being a space ranger seriously, which sounds absolutely stupid and probably autistic, which I am, but that's just the best way I can probably describe it, in my opinion. The animation at times doesn't hold up, but that's to be expected for a first-time CG animated film from the mid-90s. We've come such a long way since Toy Story's release, and Pixar is still showcasing that with each sequel we get, and there's no doubt that will be the same when Toy Story 5 comes out. I will say the characters feel a bit more cartoony in this than any of the other Toy Story projects we got after. There's still the cartoony feel in the later projects, but this one feels like they fully embraced it. There's points where characters are completely static. It's not all the time, but there are points a character is just completely still. Compared to if you look at, say, Toy Story 2, a character is always moving even when they're in idle. It at least shows that they captured the more realistic movement aspect, but I kinda like the thing of them being completely still. This is not counting when they're in toy mode, of course, as, well, that's the point. As time's gone on, I would always spot the occasional animation mistake like Buzz's eyebrow clipping through his helmet, the way his arm extends and clips through his body just to reach his laser, and of course the infamous blinking throughout pretty much every character in the film. But in reality, what animation is perfect? There's always going to be something overlooked and missed, and something that just wasn't able to be done at the time. While on the visual side of things, there's a lot that's outdated about this movie. Actual character animation, however, I think still holds up pretty decently, and has a special charm to it, especially on the cartoony side of things. I will also note that on the later re-releases of the film since the original DVD release, they used a different looking lighting, which isn't terrible by any means, but it sucks out a bit of the color that was originally there and helped create a bit more emotion in scenes. Here's a comparison to what I'm talking about. Just look at how much of a difference scenes look from 1995 compared to the re-releases. The only way to see the original look now is if you still have a VHS copy of the movie, but have to worry about the 4x3 pan and scan look. This was something they did before they did the 4x3 rework of some Pixar films, which didn't start until A Bug's Life and continued up until Cars. Unless you had a time machine and were able to go back to see it in the cinema back when the film came out, the only other way you would have seen the film in 16:9 with the original color is if you owned the widescreen edition on VHS, or if you owned a Laserdisc player with a copy of the movie. But you would have to take the disc out and flip it over to play the rest of the movie. With the widescreen VHS version though, at least you wouldn't have to do that, but you would have to see black bars in the top and bottom when it was fitted for a 4x3 TV display, which is the same case for the Laserdisc version to my understanding. Thankfully now with the 4K scan of the film's original 35mm film reel that's been uploaded online, we can now enjoy the way it was originally meant to look, and from everything I've seen, the first Toy Story is the only Pixar film to have this trouble. The only other issue would be from the Blu-ray release and onwards, where they replaced the Walt Disney logo and adds the Pixar logo at the beginning, which fails to perfectly transition to the opening like the original release does. That's at least something the original DVD release and the 10th anniversary DVD keeps intact. It's especially annoying because that's removing part of the film's original soundtrack, and you would know this if you listen to it on the soundtrack. This is why when I get the choice of choosing the version, I'm going with the 35mm now. If I have to watch the other versions, it's only because it's out of my control. Speaking of the soundtrack from earlier, The film's score was composed by the legendary Randy Newman, who also wrote and sang 3 of the film's songs such as the iconic You've Got a Friend in Me, Strange Things, and I Will Go Sailing No More. All of which are great songs. Randy Newman really captured the magic of the world of Toy Story. Scores in kids' films like Toy Story tend to miss the mark sometimes and feels generic. It's especially the case in kids' films today. Of course there's some exceptions before and after Toy Story, but a lot of them feel samey. Thankfully, Toy Story doesn't have the issue and perfectly captures the right tension scenes needed. Some will make fun of Randy Newman singing at times, but that goes to show just how iconic of a voice he has. In the credits, not only do you get to hear You Got a Friend in Me again, but you actually get to hear a duet version of the song with Randy Newman and his friend Lyle Lovett, which is a really nice version to listen to. With all that said, it's pretty obvious what my overall conclusion to this review is. Toy Story is a fantastic movie from start to finish. Many still talk about it to this day from both kids and adults. It's become one of the most essential movies to watch as a kid, and always something for an adult can pop on for themselves and they can still get some enjoyment out of. 30 years later, it's still one of the greatest movies ever created, and the perfect entry point to Pixar's long journey into filmmaking. If you want to watch a movie and take yourself back to a time when things felt simple, or get a kick of nostalgia, why not put on Toy Story? If you're someone who hasn't seen Toy Story either in a long time or just ever, well, what are you doing? Go watch it. Still to this day, my favorite movie of all time, including the second movie, as they are tied together. I'll be honest, I loved writing this review. I said earlier in the video that if I enjoyed this, I would probably consider doing more, and honestly, yeah, I think I will. It felt nice to do something that wasn't Sonic related that I'm passionate about. So I think it's time on the channel that I actually fully embrace that and do more non-Sonic videos. Of course you'll still see the Sonic videos on the channel because obviously that's still the bread and butter of this channel. But it's always nice to see something that isn't Sonic. There's more than just Sonic out there in the world. So if that's your thing, why don't you stick around, subscribe if you haven't already, and yeah, we'll get to see more non-Sonic videos in the future, which will be exciting. Don't forget to leave a comment down below of what you thought of Toy Story yourself, whether it was when you first ever watched it, or how you feel about it after 30 years. Just whatever you think of it. Shout out to my patrons, Typhoon and Andres, and my YouTube member, BAG Gomez. Much appreciated, guys. If you would like to see your name at the end of the videos, all you have to do is follow the links in the description to either my Patreon or my YouTube membership. And with that, that's the end of this video, so I thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Blue Sky, and yeah, that'll be it. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.